30th of October 2023. This is another Warrafak moment, and I'm going to talk about the military-industrial complex in America and how that is, in my opinion, the center point of all the shit that we have to endure in this world. There's a guy on Twitter, Ray J Politics. He's an excellent analyst and I like his stuff, and I really enjoy reading his analysis because he is so on the money. This morning I got this from him. The mongrelous military-industrial complex, the true rulers of America. Ever since 1950, when the US inserted itself into the Korean Civil War, the money-making racket was born in the modern MIC. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was a product of the cantankerous MIC, warned the American people about the extreme danger the MIC posed to America and to the world as he was walking out of the door in 1961. Eisenhower was president for 8 years. Why didn't he do anything about this nefarious concoction of the defense contractors, Washington, D.C. bureaucrats, members of Congress, the Pentagon and the CIA while he was president? His 1961 address reminded me of Khan in the movie Star Trek II, yelling, "Rear torpedo, fire!" as he fled away at battle speed. Now, this is a mouthful, and there's a few things in here that is actually quite disturbing. The US empire's expansion is fledgling. The great Garland Nixon pointed this out brilliantly in his recent show. The US empire with its vaunted MIC has been put on notice. Russia has blocked the US empire's expansion in Ukraine, which would signify a contraction of its dominance. So what did the US empire do to counter the reality of its dying on the vine? It expanded into Finland and Sweden. Russia will never stop in its running the US off its borders, as the US has now become a blatant existential threat. Let that sink in. We see it in front of our eyes, how the Americans, that cabal sitting in the shithouse in Washington, how they are all over the world busy stirring shit, and how they use NATO to prod the Russians all the time. With the NATO machine, the Americans has castrated the Europeans. And what the Europeans don't understand is that the American newcons, they don't give a shit for the Europeans. They only want to make money. And that stupid fuckers in Brussels, under leadership of that Ursula von der Crazy, played along with that lame duck of a Schulz and that useless Macron and that evil fucker sitting there in England. They all worked together to benefit America and fuck the Europeans. They, with that Russian sanctions, they have killed the European economy. With all the money pushed into Ukraine and under prodding of the Americans, the EU, the EC, has basically bankrupted Europe. But still, the people in Europe are fast asleep. While all this shit is going on, the XXX cabal carried out their mission by flooding Europe, England, with thousands of migrants. And look carefully, it is all fighting fit age men, bulk of it, 95%. They're doing the same thing on the southern border of America. But the people in Europe and the people in America is fast asleep. In Europe, the only leaders that actually did not fall for this shit was Hungary and Poland. They refused to take migrants. Now the European countries has got a more of a problem with this shit in the Middle East. Now all of a sudden, all those sleepers are waking up and they're in the streets. Europe is done. Taiwan was next up on the US deep state smorgasbord. The CPC in China has made it absolutely clear that they are not going to tolerate Taiwan's independence to be held as a knife to its throat 80 miles away from its shores. China has openly stated that any declaration of independence by Taiwan, which is recognized as a province of China, will lead to military intervention. The US empire would be engaged in a naval war thousands of miles away from its home shore with the largest navy in the world. This battle would be fought 200 to 400 miles away from the Chinese coast in the range of the PLA ground-based missiles. But that cretins in the shithouse only see the money that the military-industrial complex can make. But now, the Ukraine war has showed clearly that military-industrial complex, they've got a big fucking mouth, but they can't produce. They don't have the infrastructure, the industrial capacity to actually deliver. They're quick to take the orders. The US empire and the apartheid state of Israel wants the world to believe that a nation surrounded by walls, sensors, soldiers, drone surveillance and US satellite surveillance suffered a surprise attack by Hamas without their knowledge. Do you really believe that in these two nations, the top intelligence agencies on earth, the CIA and Mossad, were not privy to an attack on the magnitude which Hamas conducted? Were the citizens of Israel sacrificed by their own cantankerous government to continue their land theft and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people? Whichever it is, the Palestinian people, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad have finally drawn the line in the sand against the US empire and its Middle East military outpost apartheid Israel committing ethnic cleansing against Palestine. Let that sink in. There's so many articles in which that attack by Hamas is being questioned. And the reality is that facts, the raw facts, all point to a huge scam. And that sick fuckers sitting in Tel Aviv, they have sacrificed Israeli lives to get to the point where they are today. So the Israeli people must also take note. You are nothing more than cannon fodder for the American MI6. And all of them are tied together in the XXX gang. So we, the normal people, the ordinary people, we are in deep shit. They pulled that stunt on us with the pestilence. Thousands killed, thousands dying, and the evidence is out. Everywhere we see all types of reports. That is absolutely shocking. But do you see a single prosecution? No, you don't see that. But they sit on the stages openly bragging about what they did and telling us what they're going to do next. So what can we do? We just better wake up and realize that we are in deep shit. And I've said it many times. The only way out of the claws of XXX and all its affiliates is back to tribal law. Tribes can survive because tribes on their tribal land only execute tribal law and don't pay attention to all this fancy cock that they have manufactured over a period of more than 100 years to enslave us. It is the tribes that will survive. The MI6 cannot be stopped unless the American people stop it. As long as millions of Americans continue to allow themselves to be sucked into this Russia bad, China bad, all Muslims are terrorists narrative by the state-run shitstream media, the MI6 will continue to spend America into bankruptcy while it destroys countries all over the world. Eventually, America's never-ending wars will be delivered to our doorstep. Now, just think about this for a moment. Basically, all the Western governments are bankrupt, and not by small numbers, by trillions of dollars. But where is that debt? Where is the money represented by that debt? That money sits, the bulk of it sits in the MI6 and in XXX affiliates like BlackRock and so forth. Those guys are sitting with all the money, the cash. Guys like Bill Gates, they sit with the cash. Cash that was pumped into their bank accounts, indebting all our governments. So, I say again, it is the tribes that can survive. The EU must be broken up into pieces, thrown into the dustbin, and the tribes in Europe must take their tribal land and take control of their lives. Same thing in America. The Americans, ordinary Americans, break that United States, and a friend of mine is calling them now the Jew-United States. Break that thing into pieces. Take your independence back, and then sort this MI6 out, because they are sucking you dry and they're going to bring war onto your shore. I know this is disturbing, but I feel extremely agitated. But we don't have a choice. We either fight or we die. That is it. I want to thank the people that are supporting the channel financially. I really appreciate that. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share this thing. We, as the ordinary people, are in deep shit.